Alright guys, welcome back. We're going to be solving two more questions from the second chapter of the fundamentals of electric circuits. And we have question 11 and 12. Let's start with the first one. So in the circuit on the right hand side, we need to calculate the V1 and V2, which are basically the two voltages that we have. In here, we talked about the Kirchhoff's current law in the previous video, and we're going to go over the Kirchhoff's voltage law. And basically for this law, we need to consider loops or any closed path in our circuit. And in this one, if you see, you can see that we have two loops in here. One of them is this one and the other one is this loop. So based on the Kirchhoff's voltage law, basically we can go either clockwise or counterclockwise. It really doesn't matter. And since we have two unknowns in here, V1 and V2, we need at least two equations in order to find our unknown, which the equations are basically the loop that we have in here. So let's start with the first one. We can call this one loop first, and this one will be the second loop. And the only thing that you need to keep in mind is that going through this loop, if you enter the negative pole of this, you have to go with negative, and if you go from and if you are entering the positive pole, it will be positive. So let's move on from this point. Going here, we're gonna get to this pole. We are entering the negative pole, so negative V1. Moving forward, we're going to get to the second one. We are entering the positive, so +1. And here, getting in here, another positive, so +5 is equal to 0. Again, sum of all voltages in here has to be 0. So that's how we're going to find the V1. Basically, would be 1 + 5, 6 volt. That's our first unknown. And as I mentioned, you can go either clockwise or counterclockwise. If you do counterclockwise, so basically you're multiplying this equation by -1, which at the end of the day won't change anything. So it really doesn't matter if you go clockwise or counterclockwise. All right, so let's move on to the second loop. Let's show this with red. So we can start with any point. So let's just go from here. Again, we are entering this pole, so -5, passing here, we're entering positive +2, and the other one again plus V2 equals 0. That's going to be -3, so our V2 is 3 volt, and two equations, two unknowns, and we figure out this question. So let's move on to the second one. All right, so same idea in the second question. This time we have 3 unknowns and we have 3 loops too. So we should be able to find all of them. So let's just call this one first loop, second, and this will be the third one. Okay, so let's move on to the first one. So we are moving from this point, getting to the negative pole. So -40, again, -50, and here we're gonna pass to this one, which is positive, so +20, and we're gonna come here, plus V1, and I'm gonna get back to our point, so equals 0, and that's gonna be, so this is -90 plus 20 is 70, so V1 is 70 volts. So let's just change the color, move on to the second loop. I'm gonna do red. I'm gonna go with the second loop here. So you can start from any point, so it's up to you. I'm just going from this point. So again, we are entering a negative, and that would be negative V1, which we figure out it's 70. Going to the V2 plus V2, and here we're gonna get to V3 plus V3 equals 0. We have two unknowns in this equation, which means we need to move on to the next loop. But we could have at the first place just considered the top one or this loop our loop second. So actually it's not a bad idea. Just look at the unknowns that we have in each loop and go with the loop that you have only one unknown. That way you can find the unknowns chronologically. So this loop, I'm gonna start from here. Again, feel free to start with any point that you want. So here we're gonna enter 30 volt, coming back here negative V2, and now we are moving in this direction negative 20, And we're going to get back to our starting point equals 0. So that shows our V2 is 10 volt. And now that we have V2, we're just going to plug it in. In the previous equation, this is going to be 10. So V3 would be 60 volts. So yeah, hope everything was clear. Let me know if you guys have any questions. You guys take care. See you in the next video. Have a good one.